So I finally got around to making a video number two after wondering what my next message would be about. So today's message is about knowing yourself and how to find yourself. So in order to have an understanding of where you're from and have a perspective of where you're going to be in life, where you're going in life, you have to know yourself. But ultimately, you have to know where you come from. And with the so-called black people, Hebrews, Israelites, whatever you want to call us, the darker skinned people in America, we don't know who we are anymore. So it's very hard for us to, one, know ourselves, but two, know where we're going in life when we live in a society that doesn't ascertain to our needs, that doesn't revolve around us. And it doesn't have to revolve around us. What I'm really trying to get at is this society was never made for us. So our future looks bleak to us because a lot of the higher up positions, jobs of glamour, whatever you want to call them, we don't see those as something that we want to do. We aspire to be that, but when we hear a certain position, like a CEO of a company or something, we think automatically of a person of a different nationality, a different race, a different ethnicity than what we are. We automatically think white people. I'm gonna just be straight up. So we also think about Asians or whatever else, and we don't see black people as having positions of power. So we don't aspire as much as we should or thrive to get a position of power. We're used to being led. So we look to other people to lead us to where we should be in life, when really we have to look within inside ourselves and have an understanding of who we are, what we want to be in order to get where we're going in life. So how do you find yourself if you don't know where your roots are? Now, in history, they tell us our roots are in Africa. We are African Americans. We came from Africa. We are the descendants of slaves that were brought here from Africa. In a way, that's true, but at the same time, where from Africa did we come from? Nobody really asked the question, where from Africa did we come from? A lot of people assume Egypt. Like, that's the most drawn to culture for black people in America is Egyptian culture. And nothing is wrong with that, but Egypt is just one place in Africa, just one place. And Africa is a big continent. So where did you come from? Did you come from West Africa, Central Africa, South Africa, East Africa? Where did you come from? Did you come from the islands, Haiti, Jamaica? Where did you come from? The Solomon Islands? Where in Africa did you come from? If you don't have an understanding of your roots, if you don't know where your ancestors came from, it's very hard to understand who you are as a person and where you're going. So, in order for you to find yourself, you have to look outside the norm. You have to dig in places where you wouldn't normally dig. Think about things you wouldn't normally think about as far as your people, you as a person. When you think about yourself, do you think Egyptian? Do you think Africa? What do you think? Where do you think you came from? Where do you feel you came from? You have to feel it inside yourself. Where do you feel you came from? And that was one of the biggest questions I had when on my spiritual journey. Where did I come from? Where did my people come from? My ancestors. So I did a lot of research. I do a lot of research on the history of my last name, for one, and seeing where that leads me, the roots of my last name, which I automatically use my father's last name, and I could look into my mother's last name, but I might save that for a later time. But the biggest thing is people always say, oh, these were last names given to us by the slave masters. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But if you don't have an understanding that in America, they have a certain way of doing things, especially when they're naming things. They have a spiritual purpose to why they name something a certain name, like Memphis being named after Memphis, Egypt, but Memphis is a place in Tennessee. And there's more than one Memphis. Salem, there's like 7 different Salems in the United States. It goes all the way to street names, county names, districts, whatever. It don't matter. It's a reason they name those places what they name them. And it's to get that spiritual energy from what that place used to be. The places that they name the places in America after are most commonly lost civilizations with no real history, because all of the written accounts have been done away with, destroyed through millions of years, hundreds, thousands of years, through wars, whatever. So what they have to go on is why they name a place after that. So if Memphis was the most technologically advanced place in Egypt, it was full of royalty, blah, blah, blah. They want that energy. So they gonna name that place Memphis, right? They're gonna build a lot of the same structures that ancient Memphis had. They're gonna name a lot of the counties and other places, streets and stuff, after places in and around Memphis, Egypt, which was the capital of Egypt at the time. And Egypt was a state. It's not just some place in Africa. It's a state. So with that being said, how far do your roots go? When I searched for my last name, it didn't take me back to Egypt. It took me back to ancient Britain before it became a nation. And Williams comes from the people of William the Conqueror, which is significant in itself. So if you know anything about Britain, Alexander the Great, I don't think he was British, but he, I, I'm pretty sure he was British. Anyways, the thing about it is he became a ruler of Egypt through conquest, right? So this is around the time where our people had already lost knowledge of themselves and only had written accounts to go on, which were distorted by man, humans. So by the time Alexander the Great conquered Egypt, we were already in a low state. So when he comes and conquers Egypt and basically makes it a British state, an English state, what he's doing is taking that power from Africa, Memphis, Egypt, and transferring it to England, to Britain. So in my last video, I talked about how some of us are descendants of the fallen angels, if that's what you want to call them. Some people call them aliens. We have that DNA in our bloodline to this day. So if you have a people of royalty, a people with a significant amount of spiritual energy that helps a city, a state thrive, the natural thing to do is, if one civilization is falling apart, you move those people to a new civilization that's thriving. You can change their names. You can change their culture. You can change their history. But at the end of the day, it's what's inside of them. It's who they are. It's their blood. It's their DNA. What makes them them. It's their DNA that makes them so powerful. So once I got to ancient Britain, that took me to Egypt. Once it took me to Egypt, it took me to Greek mythology, Sumerian mythology, and Roman mythology. It also took me a couple of other different places, but I won't get into that. So not only did it take me to Egypt, it took me to specific people like pharaohs, priests, priestesses, people of power. So from there, it took me to gods. And this is how deep you have to go to find out who you are inside. You have to know yourself on a molecular level. You have to know yourself as far as DNA. Your roots are in your DNA. So what I'm saying is, those gods that it took me to are in my DNA. They are a part of my history. They're a part of my roots. They helped those pharaohs, those kings, those queens, those priests, those priestesses. They helped those people become who they were in their time because they had knowledge of themselves. How deep do you need to go? It depends on if you're ready for their journey or not. So at the time I was ready, I was fully ready for their journey. So I went as far and as deep as I could go through the rabbit hole, which led me all the way back to the first person, which was a god, the first person that created humanity. Not only that, it took me back to the god or the demiurge of Memphis, Egypt, the God that they believed Egypt was named after and that Memphis was founded upon. So once I learned this, which his name was Ptah, and in Sumerian it's Enki, in Greek it's Poseidon, and Roman is Neptune. What I learned from this was there is no coincidences. There was no coincidence that I live in Memphis. I became spiritually aware and took this journey. And it just so happens it took me to the so-called or believed to be God of Memphis as part of my roots. So with the United States being so dispersed, our people being so dispersed, the United States being so multinational, multicultural, a lot of us are not from the same people. We are not from the same bloodlines. We don't have the same ancestors. So get that out of your head. You have to find your own roots. A lot of us do have the same roots. We come from the same tree of life. And if that's where that leads you, then that's fine. But if the spirit doesn't lead you to that, then you have to find your own way. You have to find where you came from specifically. And it just so happens that my bloodline came from Memphis, Egypt. So there's that. Okay, aside from that, once I learned that it wasn't a coincidence that I live in Memphis, I grew up in Memphis, my bloodline comes from the God of Memphis and the pharaohs of Memphis, Egypt, then I had a perspective of where I'm from. Not on a total scale, not on a full scale, but just enough to get me going to move forward to where am I going in life? What am I going to be in life? From there, from Ptah, which is going up to the Most High. From there, moving forward or moving down, wherever you want to go with it. So from there, going into, okay, Ptah, then blah, 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 blah. His children, his brothers and sisters, his siblings, his parents. I went as far as his parents, his siblings, his children, his consorts. And not just him, but Enki and Poseidon and Neptune, because they're all the same person, but told from different perspectives. If you don't understand that there's a spiritual, mental, and physical perspective to the world, then you're only looking at life from one perspective. So you have to understand that before you go on your spiritual journey. So basically, looking through my family tree all the way down to the time of Alexander the Great, before we were ultimately moved to America from our living space at the time. I'm not going to say that we were from Egypt. I'm not going to say that we were from Israel. I don't believe that in the slightest. I mean, it may be true, but that's not what I believe. So from our living space at the time to the Americas, it gave me a perspective of who my ancestors were, what they were about, what they believed in. And a lot of it aligned with what I had already believed to begin with. So it wasn't hard for me to believe that I was being led by the Spirit. And yes, I believe in the Most High. I don't call the Most High God because God is a relative term used for any deity of a higher power. So for people to call the Most High God, what God are you talking to? What God are you referring to? What God are you talking about? If you understand where I'm coming from. So, yes, I believe in the Most High, but I also believe that the Most High had children that had children, that had children, that had children, that had children. The same way it goes back to your great grandparents and your great 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 grandparents and your great 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 grandparents. So it's just on a higher spiritual level, a higher spiritual frequency than what we're used to. So it would be difficult for us to think about things like that. It would be difficult for us to believe that our ancestry goes back that far and that high into the spiritual dimensions. But if the spirit is willing to lead you, and if you have faith in the spirit and the Most High, then I'm pretty sure that that's where you're going to get led to in order to know yourself on a profound level, in order to become one with yourself. So after this, I basically started reading into different religions: Islam, Christianity, Roman Catholic, Hinduism, Buddhism, Sikhism, Jainism, just a lot of different religions. I started reading the Bible, the Book of Enoch, the Lost Book of Enki, the Lost Books of the Bible, the Quran, the Bhagavad Gita, and it came to my attention that a lot of these religions, if they believe in a higher power, a deistic figure, that they were basically talking about the same thing from different perspectives. So with that being said, it was easy for the spirit to lead me because I had an understanding of what I was reading, what I was looking into, what I was researching. So with that being said, okay, this is what I was getting at. With that being said, once you understand that they're all talking about the same higher power, just from different perspectives, and though they don't all believe in the same higher power, but they all do speak about the same higher power. Some of them believe in the children of the higher power. That's who they worship, the children. They don't worship the Most High. They worship the children of the Most High, the fallen angels, the aliens, whatever you want to call them. You're not supposed to worship anybody, anything, especially inanimate objects. So money is out the door, cars, clothes out the door already. You're also not supposed to be subjugated to such low vibrations of thinking, as far as believing that these once great beings, because they're not great anymore, they're humans now, they live on through their bloodlines, are so much greater than you that they should be worshipped. Nobody should be worshipped more than the Most High Creator, Nobody. Not even his children. I don't believe the Most High is a he either, but it's the easiest form for people to deal with as far as speaking about the Most High. So I use he a lot. But I believe the Most High is omniscient, omnipotent. I believe the Most High is both masculine and feminine. And I believe the Most High is consciousness itself. So once I learned all these things, I also learned that you have that potential in you, but the only way you are going to get to it, you're going to tap into it, is if you become conscious, if you become self-aware, if you have knowledge of yourself. This is how you find out where you're going in life. This is how you find out your purpose in life. This is how you find out your calling in life. The journey is not easy. It's not an easy road. It's the road less traveled. You become an outcast if you're not an outcast already. You become a loner if you're not a loner already. You become a hermit if you're not a hermit already. For real. So you have to shut out everything in the physical. If you're not ready to shut out everything in the physical to go on this journey, do not take it. It will take you down some scary paths. And I mean mind-blowing. I mean, how far does the rabbit hole go? You have to understand that we are not just beings of flesh and nobody knows where we came from, so who cares? We're not going anywhere once we die. That's not us. That's not us. We are people. We are beings of spirit. We have souls and spirits, which I believe there are two separate entities. A soul is different from a spirit. So we have both souls and spirit. And that's what makes us who we are. And once we are gone, the soul and the spirit lives on. But if you leave without knowledge of yourself, where are you going? Of course, you're going nowhere. You didn't believe in anything. You didn't believe in yourself. How do you think you're going to go somewhere and be something in the next life when you didn't aspire to be something in this life? So that's what got me started on my videos. That's what took me on my spiritual journey, learning or wanting to learn who my people were, who my ancestors were, where they came from, why they were here, and what they were up to while they were here, they were here. So the spirit and the Most High basically told me, this is what you were created to do. This is what you chose to do before you left the spirit realm. This is what you were put here for. And this is how you will gain an understanding of what you're going to be and where you're going in life. This is how you gain peace of mind. This is how you gain peace of heart. This is how you anything dealing with positive energy. So with that being said, I go against the spirit and the Most High a lot because we all live in sin. No, I'm not advocating sin. No, I'm not saying I like living in sin. But my true purpose is not to just make videos, but to teach people, to give people an understanding, to give people a stepping stone to knowing who they are within themselves, to get people thinking about what are their roots. And the Most High told me, as long as I go against that, I won't truly be happy. I was going to title this message, what are you willing to sacrifice and what are you willing to change about yourself to truly be happy? What steps are you willing to take? How far are you willing to go? How high are you willing to climb? How far are you willing to swim or dive? So I'm trying my hardest to not go against what the Most High has set for me, because my passion is truly in leading people. And I don't want to be a leader. I just want to lead people down the right path, help them get on the right path. Where they go from there is totally up to the Most High, the Spirit, and them. I'm not telling you to follow me, because you're not supposed to follow anybody that's become self-aware. You're supposed to learn from their experience. But how is your journey? How is your journey? Where are you going? You might take the first 5 steps the same as somebody else. First 10 steps is somebody else, the same as somebody else. But after that, you have to go your own way. You can't just completely follow in somebody's footsteps. You don't know if it's a trap waiting ahead or not unless they fall into it first. So if you following them and there's no other place for you to go, then you stuck. You done fell into the same traps that they fell into. And that's not where you need to be. You need to be thinking for yourself. You need to be able to have a higher thinking and understanding of life and knowing of life for yourself. Don't let other people think for you. Don't let other people lead you. If you're going to learn about yourself, if you're going to know about yourself, you have to be able to discern and make conscious judgments with the help of the Spirit if this is what's right for you, if what they're teaching is right for you, if what they're talking about resonates with you, if what you're researching resonates with you. Does it fall in line with something you already believe to begin with? So I'm pretty much done with the message. I really enjoyed it. I need to start speaking more often because this is literally my passion. Aside from other ventures that I probably won't get into in this lifetime if I come back for another lifetime. But my point being is I actually know myself on a finite level to my DNA. That's how far I know myself. That's why I'm able to come and speak to you and teach, if only a little, and get you on that path and get the ball rolling for you, to get you thinking outside the box. Don't take everything with a grain of salt. Don't brush it off your shoulders. Think about it for a second. Just think. That's all you have to do to become conscious is think. The son of Ptah was thought, an anagram for thought. Thought became Jesus, which Jesus, they didn't use J's back then, so Jesus was Jesus or Jesus, which boils down to just Zeus, which is an anagram for truth. So thought is truth. When you read about Jesus in the Bible, replace Jesus with the word truth and see how well that fits in with the scriptures. I do it all the time, and it fits with the scriptures. Christ in Hinduism is named Krishna, and they teach all about consciousness. Christ is just another word for consciousness. You can't have consciousness without thought. You have to think. Jesus Christ, true consciousness. Christ Jesus, conscious truth. Think about it. That's the end of the video. Thank you.